I'm here to help women reset and rewild, to embrace and prioritize the pauses in order to reclaim their peace and power. I'm Dr. Michelle Peris, director of the Poppy Clinic and founder and CEO of the Wild Collective. As a disruptor, naturopathic doctor, wife, and mama, I've created a global movement and sacred space for women to rise together. Here, you'll break through limitations, romanticize your life, and unlock the magic of your divine feminine power. My life's work is rooted in community, lifting women into their most powerful, authentic selves, while empowering clinicians to elevate their practices with a transformational, community-driven model. I lead a thriving, passion-fueled business and naturopathic practice brimming with abundance, where I can guide women to invigorate their lives through sisterhood and elevate healthcare with a cutting-edge transformational approach. I've witnessed firsthand in my practice how this model sparks consistent health transformation, creates flourishing communities, and brings profitable success. You can have it all, a life filled with abundance, contagious joy, and untethered potential. So pull up a seat. It's time to pour into yourself and tap into your intuition and design a life that's wild, free, and uniquely yours. And I'm going to show you how. This is Wild Medicine. All right, welcome back to another episode of Wild Medicine. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Peris. And today we're going to get into Zone 2 exercise and why it is really important that we have various ways in which we move our body. So this summer, I went away with my family for 2 weeks and we went to Disney. And that is where we did a lot of walking. Some days we walked 22 kilometers. Some days we walked minimum of 15. So I am someone who prides herself on moving her body every day. And I do. And if I were going to take some inventory on myself, I probably don't do enough walking. The reason I really wanted to do this episode was one, that was like shocking how sore I was because I would consider myself quite fit. I really do move my body almost every day, if not every day of the week. I don't ever go over 30 minutes. Over the last 2 years, since breaking my foot twice in 6 months, I really got serious about strength training. And that I was overly confident. Let's say that I was overly confident that if you do one thing every day, that should pay it forward for every other type of movement. It was alarming how sore I was with just walking. And even though I know I get sore and I have like all the tools in my house, I have cold plunge sauna, I have foam rollers, I do fascial stretching, like I am pretty disciplined about keeping my body feeling as well as possible. I couldn't believe how sore I was after that much walking. In fact, we had to end the day short and it was our 10-year wedding anniversary. And I didn't make it to that dinner because the day before we had walked the 22 kilometers in peak heat, like peak summer heat in Florida, but my body was done. And it was a rude awakening that I might have certain fitness in certain avenues and I might be lacking physical fitness in other areas. So this episode is really about highlighting Zone 2 exercise, okay? Let's just define this for a minute because I'm not sure that everybody, this was something that, even myself as a practitioner hadn't really heard of until recently. I don't know why these things get like so popularized on social media, but they do. And at first I didn't pay attention because again, I exercised every day. I was like, I'm good. I have a Peloton. I'm on that like 4 days a week. I strength train. I'm pretty active now. Let's define, I'm willing to exercise. Am I active in my day? This is where I would give myself some feedback. So if you've listened to other episodes this season, I've really talked about taking an inventory, or I think I have. I'm forgetting what order I did what episode, so I apologize if I'm skipping ahead. But in Wild Collective, this is something that we do annually. And it's this opportunity to take a look at how are things going and what would you like to see improve and how would you like to make that happen? And so there's many ways in my personal development that becomes really easy, from someone who came from burnout who wasn't exercising every day. It was an awesome feat to actually even just start exercising every day. And I think sometimes we can then discount the need to do other things, because here you are, like myself, finally doing this thing that you're saying is important to you. At the peak of my burnout, my body was in rough shape, and I knew partly that had to do with the fact that I had really stopped exercising and had a very sedentary lifestyle. And so when I built in movement, I did it in a sustainable way. And I worked 30 minutes a day. And no matter what, even if that day all I could do was stretching, I started to build back this level of self-trust and integrity that I was going to move every single day. And then 4 years passes. We're like 4.5 years into this new way of living. And I'm physically very fit. I'm in great health. But I would say if I were to give myself feedback, I'm still rather sedentary for majority of the day. So my job is sitting. I like to sit. I have a stand-up desk. The hilarious thing is it annoys me to stand at it. That probably tells you a lot about my willingness to self-initiate exercise. Like I don't, and full caveat, if you don't love exercise, like you are one with me. I don't either, but I do love feeling well, and I do want to be fit and agile for as long as humanly possible. So after going to Florida, I think I saw where there are some deficiencies in my activities of daily living. And so it feels like maybe I'm going all over the place. I promise I'm rooted in wanting to talk about zone 2 exercise and really about, being more efficient in fat metabolism, but also being able to keep up. Like that was hard for me to have to admit I couldn't keep up with my family in Florida. Because I would say I'm the most disciplined with exercise. I am the one who exercises every day. My husband is the one who walks every day, and guess what? He was fine. So I needed to take an honest inventory of where things were at, and I needed to start build a new level of what we're calling like physical activity. Okay, so let me first define zone 2 training, because if you're like me, this is fairly popularized information. You're like, yeah, okay, cool. What is that? Like, it wasn't a thing, right? But this is what TikTok and Instagram do. They popularize things, and then everyone's talking about zone 2 training. So allow me to define it for you. Okay. So zone 2 training is, hold on, I'm trying to get to the article. I'll find it for you. You know what? Here we go. Is a comfortable effort that you can hold for a long time without strain or heavy breathing. Sounds delightful. In this state, the body uses both glucose and oxygen to propel itself forward. Long, easy runs on the Peloton tread, a casual bike ride on your favorite path, or an energetic walk with friends. So it is this continuous, longer exercise where you're getting your heart rate into a zone where you're not overexerting yourself. So not high intensity interval training, maybe a little bit more of an active walk, but you're able to converse and maintain natural breathing without strain or heavy breathing, let's just say. Okay, so that's zone 2 exercise, which I'll admit that is not what I was doing at all. So I would say what became very prevalent and easy for me is I would wake up early, I'd work out for 30 minutes, and then I would do something for myself, whether it was like personal development, spiritual reading or prayer or work, and then I would tend to my family, and then I would get on with my work day. And that is what satisfied me into getting back to daily movement, which is great. I'm really proud of myself, and I'm not going to abandon that. But I know I needed to fix or alter or adjust things, because someone of my physical fitness, or anyone really, should be able to walk around and not crash like I crashed. Like it was not good at moments. It was shocking to me at how ill prepared my body felt for that. So I do have a standing desk. I do have a treadmill. I could do more walking. I've committed to daily walking with my husband, which I'm not overly jazzed about. I'll be honest. I love walking once I'm walking, but walking is like exercise for me. The idea of it is daunting, and I never want to do it. So if that's you as well, I see you. But let's talk about why this zone 2 training and why walking is essential. And I think for so many people is a great way to start getting into activity. I had an accountability buddy when I was getting back into physical fitness, and that's how we both started training. But, that might feel daunting to a lot of people, whereas walking isn't as daunting. And, for a long time, there was, again, this held belief that 10,000 steps was the goal. Now, what you might not know is there wasn't a lot of evidence to support the 10,000 steps a day. Now there's growing bodies of research of increasing your steps between 3,000 to 5,000 steps per day, of reaching about 8,000 steps per day and above. You really start to see these zone 2 and increased metabolic benefits to walking. So there's a couple of things I want to say. When we can get into this zone 2 walking, especially postprandially, so after meals, we have the ability to lower triglycerides and burn fat more effectively. The post-meal walking, you actually help to improve your blood sugar levels. Walking aids in prevention of insulin resistance. And so insulin resistance, which also has been getting a lot of attention in the last decade, and it's worthy of that because, prior to that, we really weren't very equipped at having a conversation around the development of diabetes. What tended to be the case before we were talking about this area of insulin resistance is that we were waiting for individuals to be diagnosed with diabetes, and then we were talking to them about their blood sugar balance. There's this real gap, and truly it's like a 10-year gap in which your labs start to shift and your insulin levels start to increase and your body becomes less resistant to its signals, therefore meaning that you have elevated levels of blood sugar and your body is not as capable of managing that. That ends up eventually turning into diabetes. Cognitive decline is known as type 3 diabetes. So not only does the consequence of having elevated blood sugar levels for prolonged periods of time affect your metabolic health and your cardiovascular health and disease risk, it also affects your cognitive health. And if I were to think about my priorities as to why I'd want to get healthier, preventing cognitive decline would be a huge one for me. So blood sugar balances are obviously going to be a high priority for me. What I did easily build in so that I could hit those 8,000 steps a day, because going to work is not a problem. I get my steps in working. Now, there's some variances with my Oura Ring because I move my hands. I'm very handsy. That those numbers could be altered a bit, but I seem to have no problem when I go to work, getting my steps in. Our space is rather large. Even if I have to go to the washroom, it's quite the trek. So I have these little exercise or movement snacks throughout the day. And we're going to talk about movement snacks in a little bit here. But what I needed to do was make sure that consistently on a daily basis, I was getting, a minimum of 8,000 steps to really get the overall health benefits. The one thing I have worked actively on for the last few years is improving my metabolic health, improving my overall well-being, and physical fitness. And so walking is being built in. And so what I have done is built it in after dinner walks with my husband and our dog. And that seems to get me to that 8,000 steps a day. Now, that's great. And there are certainly many metabolic improvements with doing that. And hopefully I'll be able to report the next time that I'm required to walk as much as I did this summer that I have greater success because my body will be more fit. And I'll say, I could tell that there were certain walking muscles that were not properly trained because that's what was sore. It was like new muscles where you're like, I don't move these often enough. Where did these come from? Right. So I want to make sure I'm preparing my body for activity. So yes, I might strength train, and I built in more strength training after I broke my foot because I really wanted to improve my bone health as I age, because I don't think it's ideal for younger women to be breaking bones. It certainly can be indicative of having some osteopenic situations. It's also why I became very disciplined at adding calcium into my diet, because you do require certain micronutrients and vitamins to build muscle and to build bone health. And as we step into this perimenopausal phase, it's going to be really important that you are working with someone or part of a community where you are learning this information so that you can be able to build out a plan that works best for your body. Because I would have told you that I would have thought I was very physically fit and would not have had a problem walking around Disney. And I would have told you I had low risk factors for breaking a bone. Evidence would support that. Just because I think it doesn't make it true. Right? So these are the things where, if you can get into a group like Wild Collective, or you can be working with a practitioner to customize your plan, it's going to be hugely advantageous to you, because you do want to be very intentional with the type of movement that you're doing and making sure that what you're doing is actually propelling you towards your goals. This episode is brought to you by the Wild Collective. If you are ready for something innovative, something truly transformational, you are wanting to build a beautiful life and thriving health and vibrant energy, and you're not sure how to build that in, you might want to consider something as incredible as the Wild Collective. The Wild Collective is our women's health initiative. It is a closed community of like-minded individuals. It is where sisterhood meets self-care. There's 10 modules of fundamental women's health, all the evidence-based information that you need, the testing, the handouts, the assessment, how to advocate for yourself in the wellness space. Also, what natural and integrative approaches you can consider for any age and stage in life. And being that it is part of a community, you also get this beautiful experience of meaningful connection, conversations that matter, and truly up-leveling your life. So if you are ready to take on something totally transformative and fun, then please go check us out at the Wild Collective. So that's the-wild-collective.com. Get on the wait list, and we will see you in one of our Wild Circles very soon. I would say that one of my goals is to be able to keep up with my family on walking vacations, because that's fun for me and all of us included, right? I think that's why I had to get serious. I've known I should be walking more while that was like a rude awakening. I was incredibly sore, and I don't think I should have been that sore. So I've upped my walking. I am doing a minimum. I actually am tracking. The other thing I want to say, I feel like tracking gets a bad rap because people are worried about the hypervigilance or what that might do to someone if they become too controlling, too rigid. And of course, that can be something some people might need to be worried about, or, not having any room for flexibility in your lifestyle is going to create undue stress. However, it is incredibly difficult for yourself or your healthcare providers to really assess where problems might be occurring from, or whether or not what you're doing is actually what you're setting out to do. You're not tracking. So I do use tracking devices. I do track my food. I track my macros. I track my caloric intake. I found that incredibly empowering because, like I've said, at the height of my burnout, I felt very mystified by my body, which was incredibly disempowering and not helpful. And when I actually started dialing those aspects in, there really left no room for surprises. Like, things were very clear to me, and it became quite easy for me to discern and understand where the disconnection was lying. I have an Oura ring to track my steps. I'm making sure I'm checking every day, making sure I'm getting my walking in, have apps that track my movement. I actually have hired a trainer. We share an app so she knows when I'm exercising. I think it's important to refine. And so I'm at a refinement period because that's really nice. And if you're hearing this and a lot of this is new, walking's a great place to start because there are certainly a lot of healthy benefits with Zone 2 training that I think has been undermined. In the era of being very focused on strength training and muscle mass building, especially for perimenopausal and menopausal women, I think a lot of people are downplaying the importance of cardiovascular fitness. And Zone 2 training is one really easy way we can build in movement snacks and get, a great benefit in terms of overall metabolic health. And I think if you want a better menopause, perimenopausal experience, being focused on metabolic health is going to be incredibly advantageous. It's a great foundational start for most of us. So what's your inflammation look like, your blood sugar balance, your lipid and liver panels, your cholesterol levels? Those are going to be really great indicators and something to watch for as you increase movement into your everyday life. So increasing your steps, something we call movement snacks. And I really like the idea of this. And this is something I also could be better at because I am someone who's incredibly focused and disciplined when it comes to work. So I will sit down and crank out a ton of work in my work hours, and I will sit for a really long time. I know many know that that's not great from a focus perspective. And this is what has created a more sedentary lifestyle for myself, is that even though I move in little bouts throughout the day, I sit for far too long. So my next piece of accountability is going to be building in movement snacks. So every 60 to 90 minutes of working, I'm going to build in 5 minutes of movement. So if that is getting outside and getting a quick walk in, if it's getting on the walking treadmill, if it's doing some squats or jumping jacks or stretches, core, whatever, it's building movement throughout the day so that your body is much more active in the entirety of the day. Again, if I were to take inventory, the rude awakening for myself is that even though I was exercising early in the morning, that was not equipping me for being fit overall. And so walking greater distances on vacation became incredibly challenging, and I have to make adjustments. So I'm adding in movement snacks to allow my body some time. This is also going to be great from a focus perspective as well. So there's many benefits to doing something like a movement snack. And for someone who might be new to movement, getting in that extra walking throughout the day and getting in a few 5-minute movement snacks is going to be really helpful from going from nothing to something. It's small. And even when I'm speaking to a lot of my patients, we have the in-body composition analyzer at our clinic. And so we're looking at where you hold most of your lean mass. And what we're noticing is that most women are actually, their upper body strength is in an adequate to optimal range, but their lower body strength is suboptimal. And as we age, that's going to that's going to pose some falling issues. And we need to get leg strength up. So what I've been talking to my patients about is how can we build in squats or lunges throughout our day and build in these small little movement snacks that will not only help them build muscle where they need to be putting on muscle, because as we age, falling risks poses a huge risk to women, and those who fall, like their longevity decreases quite a bit. So falling is a major, major risk factor postmenopause. But this also helps build in these daily movement snacks to help increase your exercise tolerance, increase your step count, increase your zone 2 activity, to increase overall health and well-being. Other things that you can be intentional about. So if what I'm saying is resonating and you are ready to increase your zone 2 or increase your steps per day, you can park further away and walk to wherever you need to go. FYI, I always get super annoyed when my husband does this, but again, he does a lot of things naturally very well. Making sure you're going for a walk after dinner, I think that's a great strategy in terms of getting that blood sugar balanced, especially before bed. If we eat too late in the evening, that really is disruptive to our sleep. It really does affect our blood sugar balance. And so going for a walk after dinner can be a really great new habit. A lot of patients are also talking to me about if they're used to eating dessert, or if they're used to doing things a certain way, how do we break or create new habits? And so what we often have to do is like build in a different type of strategy. So if you are used to eating a dessert and you don't want to do that anymore, building in community and exercise is a great swap out. And, that is a great swap out. If you have a neighbor you like walking with, planning like a daily walking event after dinner where you get really great conversation and you start to build in new types of habits where you're less likely or less inclined to reach for the thing you've been doing for the last few years. Like break the habit, get yourself into a new routine, build in a new opportunity that is in alignment with what you want for your health or your overall well-being. I was surprised to learn this, and I imagine you will be too. The thing beyond this being very irritating and having to actually slow my family down, I didn't realize lack of physical exercise is the fourth leading cause of death in the world. We are a sedentary population. We don't move nearly as much as we used to historically, and we do have to be very intentional. And so setting alarms on our phone, building in new walk dates with friends or our spouses, and building in those exercise snacks is going to help improve your daily physical activity. This is a global concern, and we need to be taking responsibility for ourselves to shift the trajectory of that for ourselves, but also for our future generation who's watching us sit far too long. So that's really what I wanted to say about that. I like the idea of zone 2 exercise. I think it's way more my vibe. I did something initially that was super challenging for me. Building in strength training and making room for daily exercise was a huge feat back in the day. And that is something that's become a lot easier for me, which I enjoy. And I'm just refining. And wherever you're at in your journey, whether you don't move at all and you know you want to start walking more, or you're like myself and you've been lying to yourself about daily movement, such as strength training being sufficient for improving activity of daily living and your walking propensity, then consider this your enlightenment moment that you might need to do other things. So just to recap, really aiming for 8,000 steps a day. Ideally, you're going for an after dinner walk for about 30 minutes and getting that zone 2 exercise in to improve your blood sugar balance and lowering your triglyceride levels, and for effective fat burning, adding in movement snacks. So after 60 to 90 minutes of work, putting in 5 minutes of movement just to get your body moving and, out of that seat. Considering a standing desk or a walking, like a treadmill at your desk, it can be very helpful. There's a lot that I can do I'm just like a passive observer in my day, like watching videos or trainings or getting on calls and walking at the same time. So you can build those things in for yourself as well. And just being intentional, having an accountability buddy goes a long way. That was one of the most effective strategies I implemented 4.5 years ago, is that I texted my good friend every single day and checked in with her. That helped me motivated even when I didn't want to do it. Sometimes that's what we need in order to achieve a new goal. It's really hard to do healing alone. And that's why if you're part of our Wild Collective or a patient at Poppy Clinic, you're aware that we really do try and build community into everything that we do, because it's just, one, so much more fun, but the long-term opportunities of you actually achieving your goals become that much easier when you are accountable to someone, when you are in a community of people who have very like-minded, ambitious goals like yourself. Make sure also get an accountability buddy on your way to long-term health and delightful living. And I hope that this message helps you succeed greater than myself on a family vacation where you are required to walk, because that was not fun and I don't care to repeat. So it motivated me, and hopefully this episode has motivated you. Stay wild. Thank you so much for tuning in to Wild Medicine. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more incredible women just like you. And before you go, quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Please consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice and care. And if you're ready to take inspired action and dive deeper into your own health journey, please visit us at poppyclinic.com. Let's rewild and reset your health together.